After I found out my husband was cheating on me, while he was at work, I picked up the entire house and moved it. This is the story time about how it all started. We had been together since high school. She had been with him since high school as well. She knew that he had got married, had children, and the relationship continued. I received a text message one day, and that text message was a gallery of photos of a whole bunch of dates that him and this other woman had went on. I knew exactly who she was. I knew who her family was. We had grew up together in the same neighborhood. So at the plant, he would have to go away for work from time to time. He was actually going out of town for her birthday. He was taking her on trips for anniversary. This was going on for 23 years, and I had no idea. His entire family knew. All of his friends knew. And when I came around, everybody treated me like nothing was going on. So everybody was in on it. I continued to collect my evidence. I got logins to all of the accounts. I was watching money movement. First of the month, he was paying her rent. And we had 4 kids to take care of, and it was quite often that he would tell me he didn't have the money to pay for this or he didn't have the money to pay for that. There was an air tag in his vehicle, and he didn't know. So I would see him go to her house at the beginning of every month. I knew it was her house because the address was listed on the internet. So one day, we went on vacation. When we came back, I had to work that Monday. And it was time for me to leave work. And I lived in another parish, and something told me not to go home. So I went to the place where he normally would be at that time of the day after he got off from work. The street was empty. Something told me to go to that address that I had seen online. I drove to her house. He was there. His vehicle was backed into a parking space in hopes that I wouldn't be able to see the license plate. If for some reason I should be able to find out where he was some kind of way, I couldn't see the license plate, as if I couldn't recognize the vehicle. I knew it was his vehicle. I later found out she had been pregnant for him several times, but the kids did not live. She was barren and could not have kids. Friend, I'm gonna call you back tomorrow. I found out my husband was cheating on me, and while he was at work, I had the entire house picked up off of the land and had it moved. This is the story time about how it all started, part 2. We had been together for 23 years. I was his girlfriend in high school. We went to different high schools. He also had a girlfriend at the high school that he was at that I had no idea that he had. It was a random morning at 1:00 a.m. when I received an unexpected text message with a load of photos of him and this other female. I'm sure she got my phone number out of his phone. I started finding out things so quickly until I thought I was literally about to lose my mind. I found out my mother knew. When I told her, she laughed. She said she knew that already. But because he came around and he fed into the vice that she had, the addiction that she had, she kept the secret away from me. All that time, she was clearly understanding exactly what was happening, and she didn't say a word. Just like most people, nobody said a thing. I went to see his grandmother in the nursing home. She had dementia and Alzheimer's. And she was just sitting there, and she said, he got a baby, 2 of them, a boy and a girl. They grandmother work here. And I said, who has a baby, Mama? She says, your husband got a baby. He got 2 babies, a boy and a girl. You didn't know that? I met the nurse. Her daughter had a son and a daughter for him. These children were ages 5 and 7. And they were his. There was a female at my job that actually knew. I had a photo of him and my children that we had taken together. It was a family photo, and I put it on the desk one day at work. And she actually told me, and this was after I had found out about this other girl. She walked up and she said, I know him. And so I asked her, I was like, how do you know him? And she said, that's such and such boyfriend. Such and such boyfriend. Who is he to you? It's my husband. She walked off. He hid it. All those years. Not just a double life. Triple, quadruple, octo life. That's how many lives he had. I didn't know him for real. It was apparent that I didn't know him for real. Toward the end, when it was closer to the time for me to make my big move, while he was at work, I started losing my hair. And that's when I found out in researching her page that she had been going to a lady in New Orleans and she put roots on me. Not only did she put roots on me, but I found Nair in my hair products. That I didn't say anything. I just moved the house off of the land. He got my two youngest children, switched their school, and moved them into a house that him and the 23-year girlfriend, side chick, sister wife was living in. He took my kids. I didn't see my kids for over a year. My youngest son, I almost missed his high school graduation, but I called the school. And when I called the school, I found out the graduation was in 2 days. So I went. Friend, I'm gonna call you right back. After I found out my husband was cheating on me while he was at work, I picked up the entire house off of the land and had it moved without him knowing. Part 3. He cheated for 23 years, and my own mother knew. His family knew. All of his friends knew, and they never said anything. He had multiple women, several children that I knew nothing about. How did he escape child support? I'm really not sure. 2 weeks after I had the house moved off of the land, when the new buyer came to pick it up, I went to the school to pick up my two youngest kids, and they were not there. I found out that he transferred my children to the neighborhood that his 23-year side chick lived in, whom house he was moving into, and I couldn't do anything about it because legally I'm a parent and legally he is a parent. There was no proof in the system that he would cause them any harm, so I had no other choice but to just sit it out. He refused to allow them to talk to me. If they talked to me, then they would get in trouble with him and he would not deal with them anymore. He knew how important my kids were to me. He just knew that he would finish me by taking my children because of how near and dear my children are to me and how close we are and the type of relationship that we have and how deep my love is for them and how deep their love is for me. I was able to go to their previous school to find out what school they were transferred to. One of the teachers at the school assisted me with that. It was near graduation time at the school they had been transferred to. I called that school, found out when my son was graduating, and I showed up to the graduation. Ironically enough, this is just how God works. I didn't even see him and her. I walked out of graduation after graduation was over and walked straight into my son and the class that he was graduating with. I was able to talk to my son, spend time with him, hug him, take pictures with him, and I left, and it seemed as if I was never there. That's just how protected I am. So I went on a dating app. I had no experience in talking to other men, how to flirt, and how to make conversations. At 3 weeks, I got notification that it was about to expire. And I was gonna cancel it, but something told me not to, so I didn't cancel it. And I checked my messages, and there was a message that had been sitting. I allowed it to sit for at least a week, and then that day, I responded. He didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was. It was about 7 months into our relationship when he mentioned his family, and I started to ask questions. Come to find out, that was her cousin, the side chick of 23 years. Family talk started buzzing, but when we came out on social media with our relationship and it got back to him, he no longer wanted my kids to live with him. Now he thought my life was too easy and I had too much freedom, and he put my kids out. My kids then reached out to me, and I got my kids back. Hold on, friend. I'm gonna call you right back. Because I married her cousin, and my ex became my cousin-in-law, and so did she. My deceased grandmother came to me in a dream and showed me that my husband was cheating. I remember my husband was about to leave the house. So this particular night, I was extremely sleepy, and I hadn't got much rest. I remember my husband was about to leave the house, and for some reason, I was overwhelmed with thankfulness, saying that I love him, I love him, I love him. So I told him, I love you so much. Something about saying I love you so much always did something in the relationships that I've had with men. When I say I love you so much, within 24 hours, there's something that I find out about the man that would stop me from loving him so much. I said, I love you so much. And he responded back, I love you too. In the dream, I was walking up the steps of the house that I grew up in. I grew up with my grandmother. I knew I was in a familiar place, but I also knew that I had stepped into a past place, and it was scary. In this dream, when I made it in the house, she be quiet, Nada, be quiet. I knew it was her voice, but I couldn't see her. So she walked me to the back in the room that I grew up in, and I stood there and I looked around, and in the dream, I was wondering why was I there, but then I heard his ex's voice. And I heard him laugh. He walked into the living room and she was on the floor performing. She was on her hands and knees. She was twerking and bouncing and sliding up and down the floor. I was standing right over her and she didn't see me. It was like I was a spirit. I looked up and I saw him. He was smiling, talking about how good she looked. And yeah, baby, yeah, like that, like that. She was laughing and she was saying, you like this? I could see my grandmother appear. My grandmother said, I love you so much. And that was the same exact thing that I had told him before he left the house that night. I trusted that I was the only woman in his life and the only one that he would love for life, but it was a lie. And my grandmother had me stand there and watch, and she just kept saying, not a watch. I continued to watch him and his ex. She got on her knees, unzipped his pants. She said to him, do your woman do it like this? And he smiled and he chuckled, and his chest poked out. With arrogance, he continued to allow her to please him. And I watched. And my grandmother continued to say, Nada, I love you so much. He held her up against the wall, right there in front of me. My heart was racing. I could then feel my grandmother wrapping her arms around me, even though I could only see her silhouette. And she held me, and she said it one more time. She said, Nada, I love you so much. I woke up from the dream. 2 days later, I questioned him. He began to stutter and fluster over his words. After first, he remained quiet for a while. I said, when was the last time you saw your ex? And he was like, nah, none of that's going on. Truth was, all of that was going on. I then told him, when we got in this relationship, I asked you, were you done? And you advised me that you were. You said that there was nothing back there for you. Anything in your past was already gone and you would not return to your vomit. But yet, I feel like you may have. So what I'm saying to you is any game that you play, you will always be exposed because I prayed before I moved on into another relationship that all of the things that happened in the past would not repeat themselves, especially without me knowing. And when I knew I would have the strength to walk away from what was old. One thing about spirits is they travel. And another thing about a spirit is they are familiar. So come to find out, he was cheating with his ex. Not only had he cheated with his ex,